Kate, thank you so much for coming on the round table. So for you, when did the sexual abuse happen? How old were you then?
I was 10 years old.
And how long did it take you to break the silence?
It took 24 years.
So 24 years?
Yes.
That's when you actually spoke to somebody about it?
Yes, it was my hidden treasure.
Why do you call it your hidden treasure?
I call it my hidden treasure because I could not open up to anyone, bearing that when we were growing up, our parents were very strict. And I thought that if at all I would open up with them, they would kill me. So I decided to just go silent and keep it to myself.
Tell me about the day that it happened to you.
I remember I'd been sent to go and buy paraffin by my parents. And it was quite a long stretch because we used to live along Gong Road. So I was going all the way to the Great Corner to buy paraffin. And this car comes, a Chevrolet, a KQP. It was yellow in color. And it came just stopped by me. And this guy came, I think he was around 60 years old because he was quite an elderly man. And when we were growing up, we'd been told that we give respect to the elderly. So he came, he stopped his car, and he told me, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to the petrol station," and told me, "Can I give you a lift?" And I just gave in and I got into his car. So we went, we dropped by the petrol station, and he took a turn. So when he took a turn, at that particular time, I went to the petrol station, I bought paraffin, and was on my way back home. So when I was coming back home, the same car came and stood. So he had already won my trust. So he told me, because I'm going the same direction, can I give you a lift?
And after all, he had given you a lift to the petrol station.
Yes.
So now it was, can I give you another lift back home?
Yes. So I agreed and I got into his car. When he got in his car, the car went until when we reached the swerving direction to showground. So we took a swerve and I asked him where we headed and told me, no, I had a person that I'm supposed to collect at showground. But initially, my instinct told me things were not okay. Because at that particular time, showground was bad. There was a lot of killings and murder happening in that ground.
So you were terrified?
Yes, I was. So we went and I told him, no, I need to go home because at that particular time, it was around 5 in the evening. I told him, no, it's getting late. I need to get paraffin back home. So he told me, no, we're not taking long. I'm just going to collect someone. I picked them up, then we drive back. So we drove, then he swerved the car deep into the forest. And now when we were deep in the forest, he had knives, he had a panga, and he threatened me. So the worst happened.
He raped you?
Yes.
And at that point, as a 10-year-old girl, you're alone in the forest with a man who he asked you to give you a lift. You got into his car.
Yes.
So as he's raping you, what are you thinking?
Now, it was one of the most painful seasons or time in my life. And I could not believe because he was elderly. And
he could be your grandfather?
Yes, actually, he was. Because at that particular time, he was very elderly by then because he even had gray hair. So then when he finished the act, he left me deep in the forest all alone, hurting, bleeding. And now I decided if I go home at this particular time, I'll be killed by my parents. So I decided to...
You'd be killed by your parents because you're late?
Yes, because I'm late and also because I was terrified to open up.
So as a child who has just been raped at 10 years old, your biggest fear was, I'm going home late?
Yes.
You didn't really process what had just happened to you, and your instinct wasn't to tell your parents about it?
In fact, I never even opened up to my parents.
So you went back home that same night?
I went the same night, but I left the forest deep late at night at around 7 p.m. because I was so bloody, I was so messed up. So what I did is that I went home, I waited until it was dark because I didn't want people to look at me.
And see the blood on your clothes.
Yes, so I waited until it was 7 when it was dark. That is when I left the forest, went home. Luckily enough, we used to have water outside the house. So I just washed my legs quickly, then I got into the house. The first question was, my mom asked me, you've taken long in the forest. And because now I knew the repercussions, so I had to lie. I told her that when I went to the petrol station, there was no paraffin. So we were waiting until the tanker had to drain the paraffin. Then that is why I took so long.
Why do you think it is that when what most parents and actually most people believe could be one of the worst things that could happen to you happened to you, your instinct was take a shower, pretend nothing happened, move on with life? Did you blame yourself?
Yes, I blamed myself because I remember my mom kept on telling me that do not get into somebody's car, be very careful with strangers. But now you see here, I went against her word, boarded a car. Then afterward, the worst happened, and after the worst happened now, I decided now I could not open it up with anyone at all because because my mom used to be strict, my dad used to be strict. In fact, they died without knowing that I was raped.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so my next guest is Becky Kiru. Becky is 31 years old, and for Becky, child sexual abuse was not just a one-time incident, but it happened to her throughout her childhood multiple times. Becky, thank you so much for joining us on the round table. So as well, like Victor and Kate, you were also sexually abused as a child, and for you it was multiple times. Maybe tell us about the first time it happened.
The first time it happened, I was 10 years old. We used to go to my aunt's place in the evenings to just play with our cousins and pass time. And then one day when I was coming from there, going back home, when I was opening the gate, going back home, I just had someone grab me from behind. He took me to his house and
when you say you're opening the gate of your own home?
No, from my aunt's place.
From your aunt's place, so in a compound? Yeah,
it was in a compound. He used to live there. He was a distant relative.
So he lived in the same area. So he grabbed you, took you back to his place?
Yeah, and he raped me.
And he raped you?
Yeah.
And afterwards, when you left his place after the rape, did you tell anyone about it?
Yeah, my mom knew. I went and told my mom, and then we went to the hospital. From there, we went to the police station, but coming back, he had disappeared. Yeah.
And when you first told your mom about it, what was her initial reaction?
You know, with parents back then, they were like, you know, don't let this issue not be big because, you know, he's a family member and all that. Let it just be like something we can talk at home and all that. But to me, it was something that I don't know, it has really haunted me ever since.
And so after 10 years, you were abused again for a second time?
Yes, when I was 13 years old. I was in class 8 then. Then it was someone who used to come at home. He was like a tutor. He would come to teach us, you know. Then he had gained my mom's trust. But with me, I think, you know, the first incident, it was really bad because I used to like just want to spend time with my friends and just go out with them. Sometimes I would lie, I've gone to church, but we'd go to the disco. So this guy, he told my mom, you know, your daughter, getting stories, she's going to the disco and all that. So he would like, let me go and get her. So he gained trust of my family, and then one day he raped me. I got pregnant.
So when he raped you for the first time, did you tell your mother about it?
No, I didn't.
Why?
Because now, if I'd told her the first time and she did not get any reaction, so I didn't see any reason for telling her.
And after he abused you, was it a one-time thing or it's something that he did to you repeatedly?
It was something he did repeatedly, like for almost 2 months. Then I got pregnant. So when the pregnancy was like, I think almost 6 months, that's when my mom noticed and asked me about it. And then I told her that yes, I was pregnant.
At 13 years old?
Yes.
And did she ask you whose child it is?
Yes, she did. I told her it was that guy's. And then he was like, you know, that guy, he can't do that, blah, blah, blah.
So your mother, there you are, 13 years old, telling her that your tutor has raped you repeatedly, now you're pregnant. She chose to believe that you were lying. It couldn't be him. You were the naughty girl. Wewe ndio ulikuwa mtoto mkorofi yani.
Yeah, to them I was the naughty one because, you know, because of the company that I was having back then. But they did want to like know the real story. So I was like, it's okay, let me just take the blame.
How did you feel knowing that you're pregnant by your abuser?
I felt bad. By the way, it is something that has haunted me all my life because, you know, my mom, at times when I give birth, my mom would like tell me, you take this child back to the dad and all that, blah, blah. So I would go. That guy was alikuwa manamba. So I would go, nakatu hapo stage, I would sit there waiting for him. But when he sees me, he'd run away. So I go back with my kid at home and my mom was like, no, you know, nimekulea, I can't again bring up your kid. So you have, you know, you have to know what to do. Then after 8 months, the kid passed away.
And during that time when you're raising your child, I can imagine that being 13 years old, just the shock of it all, you know, dealing with rape, now dealing with being a new mom, dealing with rejection from your parents, from the child's father. How do you think you got through it?
When I did my class 8, because when I did my class 8 when I was pregnant, and then when the kid passed away because of this rejection and all that, I had to run away from home.
And unfortunately for you, you were sexually abused again another time.
Yes.
Tell us about the third incident.
That incident, my mom passed away during the 2007 post-election violence, and then life became very hard. So by then, I had a child. He was 2 years old. So a lady suggested I should come to Nairobi so that he could employ me as a house girl. So I came with my kid. The first time I came, it was in 2008. I came to Mwiki, but again, it was not the job that I was told about. When I came, it was these ladies who have houses, and he'd bring men to sleep with ladies, with
So
girls.
it was a prostitution ring.
Yeah, he'd bring men to sleep with girls, then he'd be given money. Then at the end of the month, he'd be given commission. So I stayed there for 2 months, and then one day I just talked to a guy and I told him my story. He gave me 1,000 shillings and he was like, okay, you can go back to your place. So I ran away from that place. And then I took a matatu. It was around 5:30. So when I was going back to Eldoret, on reaching Nakuru, the bus driver said that they were not going anymore. So we were refunded 500 shillings. It was raining, by the way. So I asked around if I could find a place where I could at least sleep, or if I could get a car that could take me to Eldoret. A guy was like, okay, let me show you. He took my bag. I was carrying my child on my back. We went, but again, I got goosebumps because I was like, we have gone, and I'm not seeing any sign of cars or anything. When I asked him, when we are not reaching, he hit me on my leg, and then they dragged me, 3 guys, and then I was raped by 3 guys again.
So how old are you at this, when the final incidents happened?
I was 17.
So at 17 years old, raped at 10, raped at 13, found yourself sold to prostitution,
Yeah.
and then finally raped again.
By 3 guys in front of my son.
So how did you deal with that final incident? Because I can imagine at this point, this is a lot for anyone. This would wear down anyone. But looking at you today, you've done an amazing job, Becky, because you're a very strong woman.
It has not been an easy job, you know, because I've attempted suicide thrice because of all that, you know. After that incident of those 3 guys, a lady that we were sharing a bed in the hospital in Nakuru, she took me in and employed me as a house manager. I stayed with her for a year. And then after there again, I was raped by the brother. That thing really tortured me, and I felt like killing that guy. But I fought with that spirit so much, and I was like, no, I can't be a murderer. So I decided to just be something else, you know. I decided drugs was my friend. So from there, I think I just became another Becky, you know. I've been a drug addict. It's a year since I broke the addiction. I have got tattoos all over my body. When I'm drunk, I would get in the house, get a blade and try cutting myself, thinking that by morning I'd have bled and died. And
Would you also cut yourself on the face?
No, on the face it was a relationship that I was in for 3 years, an abusive relationship.
So if you look at your life and every single experience you've been through,
Yeah.
would you say that it all starts at the first time you were raped, which was age 10, and the fact that your parents, your family, did not get you the necessary help that you needed to cope with it, and as a result, looking back at every single incidence of rape, emotional, physical abuse you've had to endure, it all stems back down to where it all started.
Yeah, I think the first time I was raped, to me, up to date, I do say, if I'd gone for counseling, or if they had, like, you know, let me open up to someone, I wouldn't have gotten to the point I was in.
Absolutely. And remember, to our viewers, this is actually why tonight it was very important for us to actually put this issue on the table, child sexual abuse in Kenya. We are breaking the silence, because if you do not break the silence, you're actually part of the problem. You're breeding violence. And we've had that this is not just something that, contrary to popular belief, only happens to girls. It's happening to our boys. It's happening to our girls. And I'm sure you've seen the headlines. It's despicable when you're seeing a headline saying that a child as young as 6 months, 8 months, 10 months is being sexually abused, because the question is, who is abusing them? It's the very people within our society who are carrying out this despicable act against our children. So today we are asking you, join us, be a champion, let us talk about it. Up next, I'm going to be joined by a team of experts, counselors, psychologists, who are going to help us know how can we as a society be vigilant. If you're a parent, how do you tell the signs that your child is being abused? If you're a parent and your child has been abused, how do you help them cope? Because you've seen from Becky's story, if you don't deal with it, you're setting up your child for a lifetime of pain and hurt. And finally as well, just how can we as a society, when it does happen and you catch the abuser, hakuna cha huyu ni mtu wetu tukanyagie. We must ensure that they face the full force of the law, because stealing a child's innocence, that is not something that we as Kenyans should take lightly.